Hello everyone and welcome to my Bachelor Nation official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and gives this video a thumbs up. Joan Vassos, the Golden Bachelorette, has been engaged to Chock Chapple since late 2024, but she has already revealed their arrangement and now admits that marriage may strain their love. Throughout season 1 of The Golden Bachelorette, viewers watched Joan and Chock fall in love despite the fact that he raised red flags. Chock appeared to be a little too non-committal for Joan, but when the two ended up together at the end of the season, people accepted it. While waiting for wedding bells, Bachelor Nation hasn't seen much progress from the happy pair. Joan and Chock revealed on the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast that the pace of their relationship may make marriage difficult right now, as they have both grown extremely busy. Maintaining a long-distance romance, Chock and Joan continue to make time in their hectic lives to visit each other in Maryland or Kansas, but have made no further preparations for the future. Joan and Chock have often stated that they are not in a hurry to marry, and their most recent update explains why. While the couple has done their best in public to portray their long-distance romance as a sweet, romantic period, it's evident that they are still leading lives centered on being in their separate locations. Joan's job as a school administrator keeps her in Maryland, while Chock's business is currently in Kansas, so combining their lives in one location would be ineffective. Throughout their discussion of their relationship, it became clear that Joan and Chock are sincerely dedicated to one another, but their relationship does not require an additional layer of togetherness at this time. Joan and Chock may discover that their long-distance relationship does not progress beyond this stage. They are currently focusing on growing their relationship around their lives rather than making their lives revolve around their relationship, which is healthy. Joan and Chock's announcement that they are starting to plan their wedding seems like the greatest decision for them. While some Bachelor Nation viewers may not understand why Joan is okay thinking marriage could strain her relationship with Chock, it makes sense to the couple. Joan's idea of her relationship with Chock, which he appears to share with her, is that their time together is best spent with some long distance to maintain their lives, which make them both happy. While they may not always be together, Joan's realization that she or Chock making sacrifices for one other after the Golden Bachelorette would not work is a mature decision. Joan Vassos had never expected to find herself falling in love on national television at this stage of her life, let alone under the intense spotlight of the Golden Bachelorette. As the lights dimmed on the final rose ceremony in late 2024 and Chock Chapple took her hand, slipping a modest but beautiful engagement ring onto her finger, the moment felt surreal. Cameras flashed, producers applauded, and the couple shared a teary-eyed embrace as the world watched a new kind of love story, one for the second act of life, unfold. In the weeks that followed, Joan and Chock basked in the afterglow of their fairy tale ending. Media outlets dubbed them a heartwarming success story, a beacon of hope for love beyond 50. There were interviews, photo shoots, podcast appearances, and constant speculation about when wedding bells would ring. But for all the fanfare and smiles, reality waited in the wings, quietly encroaching on the space between them. Joan returned to her home in Maryland, resuming her role as a beloved school administrator in Montgomery County. The rhythm of her life, early mornings, faculty meetings, and late-night grading, picked up where it had left off. Meanwhile, Chock settled back into his world in Kansas, overseeing the day-to-day operations of the small agricultural business he'd spent decades building. His days were equally full, consumed by crop reports, weather forecasts, and staff management. The calls and texts between them were frequent at first, filled with affection and optimism. They FaceTimed each night, sharing updates about their days, reading aloud from the same book, and even cooking meals together over video chat. But distance has a way of inserting itself not only physically, but emotionally. And as time went on, the long-distance romance they tried so hard to sustain began to stretch thin. Joan, ever thoughtful and deliberate, had anticipated some hurdles. She knew their lives were deeply rooted in separate states, that merging their worlds wouldn't be as easy as packing a suitcase. What she hadn't fully anticipated, however, was the subtle but growing pressure from outside voices, Bachelor Nation fans, producers, and even their own families, who wanted them to fast forward to the altar. She and Chock had been upfront from the beginning, there was no rush. They had agreed, both privately and publicly, that their journey was about companionship, shared values, and enjoying the process of growing closer. But when they sat down together on the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast several months later, it became clear that taking it slow was not just a convenient phrase, it was a necessity. "Marriage is a beautiful thing," Joan said gently during the interview. "But for us, right now, it feels like adding pressure to something that doesn't need it." Chock nodded beside her, his hand resting casually on her knee. "We're happy. And we're building something. But we've also got full lives, and we're not willing to give those up just to meet someone else's timeline." The hosts of the podcast, visibly surprised, tried to press the issue, what about wedding plans? A timeline? A shared home? But Joan and Chock held their ground, speaking with the kind of calm self-assurance that comes only from years of living, learning, and loving. To outsiders, their hesitation may have looked like cold feet. In truth, Joan had wrestled with concerns about Chock from the very beginning. Even during the Golden Bachelorette, he had shown signs of being noncommittal. He was charming, witty, and deeply intelligent, but his responses to questions about the future were often vague. He avoided specifics about relocating, dodged discussions about retirement, and once admitted on camera that he wasn't sure he ever wanted to live with a partner full-time again. It was that moment, during a quiet dinner date in episode 7, that had stuck in Joan's mind like a burr. They had been sitting across from each other at a candlelit table in Santa Fe, sharing stories about past relationships. Joan had opened up about the grief of losing her husband, about learning how to be alone after years of being half of a whole. Chock had listened patiently, then said, "I think I'm still figuring out if I want to share a bathroom with someone again." She had laughed then, so had the audience, but afterward, she remembered staring at the ceiling in her hotel room, wondering whether they were too different after all. Still, when the season ended and she chose him, it was because of the way he made her feel. He was gentle. He made her laugh. He had a wisdom that complemented her own. But now, months later, the subtle cracks were starting to show. Despite frequent weekend visits, her flying to Kansas one month, him visiting Maryland the next, they both acknowledged that the trips were becoming more logistically challenging. Joan's calendar was packed with school events and district meetings. Chock's business was undergoing a period of expansion that demanded more of his time than he had anticipated. And when they did manage to carve out a weekend together, the visits often felt like brief islands of intimacy floating in a sea of stress and scheduling. Thanks for watching. If you likes this video, do not forget to subscribe to my channel and do not miss any update.